Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananamalayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Shloka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Kesavam Badharayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomabhat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Om Shri Dakshina Swamine Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambadva Manusandhadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Sunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedais Sankabadakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Dadgatena Manasam Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantanna Vidhusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Namaste once again, everyone.
Namaste, Guruji.
Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipah nachaiva na bhavishyamah sarve vayamathav param. So this is the 12th sloka of the second chapter that we were discussing in the last class. So here Bhagavan Krishna is saying to Arjuna that it is not true that I was not there in the past. That you were not there in the past and that these kings were not there in the past. All this is not true at all. And that all this will not exist in the future is also not true. So he makes a very cryptic statement. And on the face of it, if we actually reflect on it based on our experience, it looks illogical. Because we all believe that we did not exist before we were born, isn't it? And that once we die, we will not exist also. We will cease to exist. This is our experience, this is our belief. And in fact, not only our belief, most of the world believes that only. Very few people will believe, will understand what Krishna is trying to say. So, what Lord Krishna is trying to convey through this sloka is the moot question. So now, if we just look at the background, we were discussing that Arjuna was facing two problems. One was an incidental problem and another was a fundamental problem. Incidental problem we saw was a Kshatriya problem. Being a Kshatriya, his dharma was to fight. But that problem was triggered by a deeper problem of attachment and sorrow. And this attachment and sorrow are eternal problems. They are not only eternal, but they are universal problems also. The attachment and sorrow, afflicts everybody. That is the basis of what we call the bondage of samsara. So Arjuna faces both these problems. And Bhagavan Krishna has to solve both the problems of Arjuna. So to solve this problem, Bhagavan Krishna is taking 3 lines of discussion. A 3-pronged attack, as you may call, to make Arjuna fight this war. Because given the context, what is Krishna's main goal? That Arjuna, who has actually given up all intention to fight the war, should be made to fight this war because it is very important for Dharma Samsthapanarthaya. So Arjuna is the only hope that Krishna has got to fight this war, win this war, and re-establish Dharma. So the 3 angles are what they are, we will see. One is a philosophical angle. From the philosophical angle, he is trying to solve the problem. The second is from ethical angle. He says, Arjuna, you have to fight because that is your dharma. And the third is from the worldly angle. He says from the worldly angle also, if you look at it, you have to fight. Thus, there is a 3-tiered argument, that is philosophical approach, ethical approach, and simple worldly, or we can call it materialistic approach. All 3 Bhagavan Krishna employs. So what he wants to say is that, hey Arjuna, whatever be the angle from which you see, you examine the present situation, you have to fight this war. Now the question is, of these 3, which one is the main argument in the Gita, or main approach of Gita teaching? Looking at the contents of the entire 18 chapters, we can say that the philosophical approach is the primary approach in the Gita. Then comes the ethical approach, that is also given importance. And the worldly approach, the last one, is given least importance. Now the question will arise, why should Krishna give importance to philosophical approach? That's for 2 reasons. One is, Arjuna already knows Dharma Shastra. This Krishna knows. Arjuna's problem was not ignorance of ethics. In fact, his brother, Dharmaputra, is Sakshat Dharmaputra, Yudhishthira. Very learned person. Arjuna is also a learned person. He knows what is dharma, what is adharma. He has studied Dharma Shastram. He has moved with Lord Krishna throughout his life. Therefore, Arjuna's primary problem is not ignorance of ethics. It is not ignorance of what is dharma and adharma. It is a confusion between what is dharma and adharma given the situation. So it was not the problem of ethics. His problem was self-ignorance. Arjuna did not know what is the absolute reality of this entire creation. And therefore, Krishna's approach is philosophical. And secondly, to fight or not to fight is the problem which Kshatriya, as a Kshatriya, Arjuna faces. But that is relevant only for the context in which the Mahabharata war is set. But the teachings of Gita, for them to be relevant for all people, for all times, the philosophical approach alone will work. But we are not, as grihasthas and as family people and all, we are not facing any war-like situation that we have to go to a war and then fight. And then whether it is dharmic, adharmic, this confusion we are not having. It's only Arjuna who was having. But then the teaching of Gita should be relevant to all, but everyone at all periods of time. So therefore, the philosophical approach alone will work. And that is why from this verse, that is the verse 12 to 25, 14 verses, we get the philosophical approach where Krishna talks about the true nature of Arjuna, the true nature of Bhishma, the true nature of Drona, and the true nature of Krishna himself. This is what is called Atma Vidya or Atma Tattvam, the true nature of the self. And this is talked about from verse 12 to 25. After that, Krishna will come down one step and will say, Swadharmamapi chaveksha na vikampitu marhasi. He will say, hey Arjuna, you did not go to this philosophy area at all. Just analyze from the point of view of ethics, which you already know. Then also you will have to kill all these people. I know killing people is not ahimsa, but this is ethical himsa, as good as ahimsa. It is just like giving capital punishment for a criminal. Therefore, from the ethical angle also, you have to fight this war. And then he further comes down and he says, hey Arjuna, if you are not able to appreciate even ethics, then at least for maintaining your name and fame, you have to fight. You have a reputation to protect. Arjuna, you are a known warrior. Everybody knows Arjuna means a big warrior who has fought so many battles. Even he has fought with Lord Shiva, Indra, everybody has fought. So you have to maintain that reputation, and for that reason also you have to fight Arjuna. This is the line of argument Bhagavan Krishna takes. So these are the three angles. Now let us see an overview of a philosophical angle. First angle. In the previous sloka, Bhagavan Krishna said, Gatasu na gatasu cha na anushochanti panditaha. That is again he said a statement that learned people, wise men, do not grieve for what is already gone and what will go. That is for already who are dead or who are going to die. Now from this sloka onwards, he starts explaining why wise men do not grieve. And in this sloka, we must remember, whenever he is referring to himself, Arjuna, kings, he is not referring to the physical entities, not to the stula, sukshma and karana sharira, but the inner essence of each one of them, which is the Atma, the real self. And interestingly, Bhagavan Krishna is using the language of double negative. And there is a reason for it. There is a very grammatical reason for it. He shows that Atma is Nitya, eternal, because Atma doesn't have a prior non-existence. This is the way the Nyaya Shastra works. And it does not have a posterior non-existence. Therefore, Atma is Nitya because Atma does not have a prior non-existence nor posterior non-existence. See, doesn't have a prior non-existence, doesn't have a posterior non-existence, double negative is used in the Nyaya Shastra. That the same Nyaya he is putting here, same language he is speaking here, double negative. And this is the Sangraha Vakya. The Sangraha Vakya means the headline, you can call it, right? Because any object which we are familiar with will have a birth date. I mean, you take anything, like this, that, like this, iPhone, the phone which I am having. It was manufactured, or we can call it born on a given day. Before that day, there was absence of that phone. That absence, that is before coming into being, is called prior non-existence. Technical term, it is called prag abhavaha. So every object, before it comes into existence or before its birth, will have prag abhavaha, prior non-existence as that object. It might have existed in some other form and name, but as that particular object, it has prag abhavaha. So therefore, we can say, taking the example of this phone, that before this was manufactured, this phone was not there, prag abhavaha. And any object which is born will have prag abhavaha, prior non-existence or prior absence. And one day, sometime in the future, when this phone ends, or we can call it, its form is destroyed, it will have posterior non-existence. That is absence of existence after destruction, which is called pradvamsha abhava. So any object, according to Nyaya Shastra, any object which has got prag abhava, prior non-existence, and pradvamsha abhava, posterior non-existence, is defined as anitya, temporary. Even if the object has got only prag abhava, then also it is anitya. For something to be anitya, temporary, not permanent, not eternal, one non-existence is enough. So anything that has prior or posterior non-existence is anitya. If both are there also, it is anitya. So one abhava is enough to establish anityatvam. And what is nitya? Nitya is that which is free from prag abhavaha and pradvamsha abhavaha. Prag abhavaha, pradvamsha abhavaha, rahitaha nitya. And what Bhagavan Krishna is referring to Atma is telling that Atma does not have prior non-existence, and also it does not have posterior non-existence. Therefore, Atma is Nitya. Therefore, Atma is Ashochya. You see how the use of double negative, how he has beautifully brought the Nyaya Shastra. Because he knows, Arjuna knows, has studied also. Nyaya Shastra and all that in Gurukula, they teach everything. So therefore, what Krishna wants to now, through this sloka, emphasize is Bhishma and others, from the point of view of the absolute reality, are Ashochya. They are not to be grieved for. Therefore, don't grieve for them. Once we come to the Atma angle, we should remember, and I'm of course referring to all Tattvabodha students who are here. Others also, they would have probably, listened to or attended so many classes and listened to videos and all lectures, talks by, Mahatmas and all that. So they will have a fair idea of what Atma is all about. We will just recall. Because this is what the next 13 slokas Bhagavan Krishna is going to talk about. So I'll give you an overview of what is discussed in these verses, this 13 verses, in the context of what is discussed in Tattva Bodha, so that these verses will become very clear. So that when we see the verses, we need not go into long discussions understanding what is Atma and all that kind of stuff. What is the nature of Atma? What are the features of that Atma, etc. So this overview will be helpful for us to understand these verses when we study them. If you recall, in Tattva Bodha, the student asks a question, Atma kaha? What is this thing called Atma? And the teacher said, Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatirikta Panchakoshatita San Avastatraya Sakshi Satchidananda Swarupa San Yas Tishtati Sa Atma. This was the long definition for Atma given in Tattva Bodha, a beautiful, all-encompassing definition. So there we started by saying that every individual is a conscious entity. Every living being is a conscious entity, which means there is consciousness in the body, mind, sense complex. Which consciousness we do not find outside the body in all objects. We do not find means we do not experience. When we look at a table, the table is inert. The laptop which I'm using is inert. The wall by my side is inert. The fan which is there is inert. But the individual conscious entity is sentient, which means there is consciousness in the body, there is sentiency in the body. And in Tattva Bodha, we ask the question, what is this consciousness which makes the living being sentient, alive, different from a table or a laptop or a wall or from a fan, etc.? Then we said consciousness is a separate entity, a formless separate entity. And there we saw the example of the light principle. It is not light, but it is comparable to the light principle. Then we also said that this consciousness is not part of the body. It is not a property of the body, and it is not even a product of this body. This is what we said. So therefore, consciousness is not a part, not a property, not a product, but it's a separate entity which pervades and enlivens this body. Like what? And that is where we took the example of light. Light is not part of the body. Light is not property of the body. Light is not even product of the body, isn't it? On the other hand, light pervades our body and makes this body visible. For example, when you are seeing this hand, you are actually seeing two things. One is you are seeing this hand, and another is the reflection of the light on this hand. That reflection of the light you cannot see separately. It is intimately on the hand, but that light is not a property, part of, product of this hand. This is the first lesson that we learned. So we said that this separate entity called consciousness, which we compared to, we gave the example of light, is not bound by the limitations of the body, just as the light is not bound by the limitations of this hand. That means what? This hand has got a spatial limitation. But the light which is pervading this hand is beyond the hand also. The hand has got boundaries, but the light does not have any boundaries. Same is the case with consciousness. So even though we cannot experience the consciousness, by experiencing all the objects in this entire universe, we can understand what is the nature of this consciousness. That is the second lesson. Consciousness is not bound by spatial and time-wise limitations of the body. What is the first lesson? It is not a property. Consciousness is not a property, a part or a product of the body. And the second lesson is consciousness is not bound by spatial and time-wise or temporal limitations of the body. This is the second lesson. Now, what was the third lesson that we learned in Tattva Bodha? When I move the hand from here to here, right? Even though the light continues there, where the hand was there previously, the hand is here now. Light is falling on the hand, and I move the hand here, right? Assume that there is no other thing here when I move the hand. The light continues to be there, but we are not able to see the light because there is no reflecting medium. It is not that the light has disappeared along with the hand. But when the hand is removed from the place where it is, that light is not visible unless it falls on another, it pervades another object, because of which again the same principle like the hand, light pervades that, so we are able to perceive that object. So from this example, what we saw, when the hand is there, light is there, visible light. When there is no hand, what is there? We should not say no light. We should say no visible light, because there is no light in visible form. Similarly, as long as the body is there, the consciousness is there in manifest form, manifest as the sentiency, life, etc. When the body is removed, consciousness is there, but it is not in a detectable form. It is not in a traceable form. Therefore, in Sanskrit, we use the word Vyakta Chaitanyam when the body is sentient, and Avyakta Chaitanyam when the body is gone. Consciousness is all pervading, it pervades all the objects, but it manifests as sentiency only when there is a suitable, appropriate, reflecting medium. It is just like, the example I gave in Tattva Bodha also, I remember, a bulb which is there. The bulb actually is lit by the electricity which comes. We can see the lighted bulb with the filament and all that, right? Old type bulb, I'm not talking about the latest LED bulbs and all that, old type bulbs. And when we see the bulb lit up, we can understand that there is electricity which is pervading that bulb. We can't see the electricity, but we can understand by experiencing a lit bulb, we can understand there is electricity in that bulb. Suppose the filament of that bulb breaks. What happens? The bulb will not burn. Even when we switch on the electrical point, bulb will not burn. Does it mean that there is no electricity flowing into the bulb? It does not mean that electricity is still there, it is flowing into the bulb, but because the bulb now is no longer a reflecting medium, it has lost its capacity to be lit up. So the bulb is not able to burn or to light up. So earlier the electricity was in a Vyakta form. That is, Vyakta form means which can be in a sort of a, within quote unquote, let's say sentient form in the bulb. I'm comparing the lighting of the bulb to sentiency of the bulb. And when the bulb has got fused, it has become Avyakta. Electricity is there, but it is Avyakta, not detectable form. Similarly, consciousness is always there in Vyakta form or in Avyakta form. And this consciousness is what is called Atma. And the reflecting body, not only body, mind, sense, complex, the reflecting medium for this consciousness, the medium which gets enlivened by this consciousness is called Anatma. It is not Atma. Therefore, consciousness is separate from the body. Consciousness is not bound by the limitations of the body. Only thing is, minus the body, the consciousness is in invisible form. So, all this body, mind, sense complex, they are all Anatma. For some period, based upon other considerations, which we need not go into now, this body reflects that consciousness so that enlivens. It becomes sentient and it's able to carry out all transactions with the world. And from this, we come to know that every individual is a mixture of Atma and Anatma. So when I see you or you see me, we are seeing two things. What are the two things? We see the physical form of the other person, and we are also experiencing the consciousness which is pervading the body, which is enabling us to see the physical body form of others. It is just like light pervading the hand. When we see the hand also, we are seeing two things. One is this hand and another is the light which pervades the hand. But we do not pay attention to that light, which we generally take for granted. So when it is dark, I will not be able to read a book. But when I am able to read a book, there are two things. One is the book, another is the light which is pervading the book. Similarly, when we talk of Anatma, we cannot ignore Atma. Anatma cannot exist without Atma. Therefore, all of us are what? We are a combination of Atma plus Anatma. That is what is the third lesson. Now, the next lesson that we learned from Tattva Bodha is that the spiritual sadhana that consists of shifting our identification from the perishable Anatma to the imperishable Atma. Shifting our focus of identification from the body, mind, sense complex to the consciousness which is eternal. That is the whole aim of this sadhana, spiritual sadhana. So when I say that I am the body or I identify myself with the body, I will have to accept that I am a mortal. To say that I am the body, I should be ready to accept mortality. But how many of us are ready to accept mortality? Well, this is what happens. Many people will say they don't have a problem with death. But they say that I should die suddenly. I should not suffer the pains of a lingering death, going to hospital with tubes in all the holes in our body, or they make special holes to put tubes in the hospital. Such a painful thing. Painful not only for the people who are undergoing that torture, painful also for people, others, who see them undergoing this pain. So, what we should understand, we should remember that as long as we claim we are the body, we should be able to accept old age, mortality, going to hospital, all these things we must be ready to accept. So it is not enough just I say, I accept death. If you accept death, you must be able to accept all these things also. And if we do not want these two, there is only one way, which is shift our identity, shift our focus from Anatma to Atma. And when I do that, when I shift my identity to Atma, what will be my attitude? I will know that I am not the body. But I will understand that I need the body as an instrument to transact with the world. Therefore, instead of hating the body, instead of being indifferent, I will actually love the body as an instrument, and instead of loving the body as myself. Instead of saying, I am the body, we will say, I have this body. Or saying, I have a beautiful body, we will say, I have this beautiful body. Therefore, I can continue to love this body as an instrument and do everything to maintain this instrument in a proper shape. Even though I know that at every machinery which I have experienced, there is a wear and tear, and at some point in time that machinery will completely close down. It will exhaust its whatever you call working life. Similarly, I will understand that this body, which is my instrument which I am using, also at one point in time will stop functioning. But till such time, I will, even though I claim I am not the body, does not mean that I will abandon this body. I will actually, oh, I don't, this is not my body, I hate this body. This attitude I will not have. I will be thankful to Bhagawad for having given me this body, because as an instrument, as long as this instrument is available, I am able to transact. It is only when my body, mind, sense complex is in a very good functioning state, I am able to even pursue the spiritual sadhana. It is this healthy body, mind, sense complex which is enabling me to understand everything about my true nature. If it had not been there, we can't even talk about spiritual sadhana. And the further understanding is, even when this instrument is gone, I still remain as an Atma and look for another instrument to transact with this world. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Therefore, I always remain, and what keeps changing and going away is this instrument. The instrument is mortal, but I always exist. Therefore, there is a very great advantage to shift our focus from mortality to immortality. Asatoma sadgamaya. Asat means unreal, anatma. Sat means real, atma. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya. Tamas means ignorance, and jyoti means knowledge. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya means, oh Lord, lead me from ignorance to knowledge. And by that, what happens to me? Mrityorma amritam gamaya. I change my focus from mortality to immortality. In fact, we are not going from mortality to immortality. Mortality to immortality movement means shifting from identification with this mortal body to the identification with the immortal I, the immortal Atma. Because this mortal body cannot become immortal. What can change is the attitude. What can change is the identification. Therefore, that shift in the attitude, that shift in the identification has to take place. Similarly, the Atma also cannot become immortal. Why? It need not even become immortal because it is already immortal. So, what are we trying to immortalize here? Anatma cannot be immortalized. Atma need not be immortalized. So what are we doing? We are only shifting our identification from the mortal body to the immortal self. Mind you, remember, we are combination of both Atma and Anatma. All along, we have been identifying ourselves with the Anatma. Now, through this spiritual sadhana, by studying the Bhagavad Gita, by studying the Upanishads, by doing Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, all these sadhanas, we are shifting the identification from the mortal body to the immortal self. And for this shift to take place, the scriptures are giving some methods of thinking. And if we channelize our thinking along that method, it will be easier for us to claim I am the Atma. And one of the most powerful method of thinking is called Drik Drishya Viveka thinking. And what is that thinking? Very simple, beautifully Adi Shankara has, Bhagwan Bhashyakara has, given us this what I should say, method. That method says, whatever I am experiencing, I am not. Whatever I am experiencing, I am not that. Because whatever I am experiencing is an object of experience, and I am a subject of experience. It is like, whatever the eyes see is not the eyes themselves. The eyes can see everything in the creation, but the eyes, they do not see themselves. From that, it is clear that the eyes are ever the seer, the one who sees. It can never become the object of sight. I'm talking about my own eyes. I can see your eyes. So, subject is always different from the object. Now, if we use this method, the world is an object of experience, arriving and departing. Agamapaina. Therefore, I am not the world. What about the body? The body also is something I experience only in the waking state. This body is not available in the dream state for me. It is not available in sleep also. During waking state, I use this body. During sleep state, I do not use this body at all. It is as if a dead body when I am in deep sleep. That's why people say, oh, yesterday I had a wonderful sleep. I slept like a dead body. People say that. No, I mean, even the consciousness that I am the body is not there at that state. What about the mind? The mind also I experience during the waking state and also during dream. Because in dream, even though body is not active, the mind is active, and that is why it projects all sorts of images, on the mind, and we enjoy the dream, enjoy or suffer the dream, whatever it is, whatever is the experience. But when I go to deep sleep, I don't use the mind also. That also goes completely resolved. And that is why there is no worry. In deep sleep state, body is inactive, mind is inactive, there is no worry, no raga, no dvesha, no kama, no krodha, nothing is there. In fact, everybody in a deep sleep state is a moksha purusha, liberated person. The only problem is that person gets up. So therefore, and when he gets up, everything comes back. Mind comes back, body's actions come back, everything comes back. Therefore, even in deep sleep state, if the body and its properties go, they later on come back. So body and its properties come and go. The world and its properties come and go, and I experience all of them. And therefore, I am none of them. All these which I experience are called drishya. They are all called drishya, that which can be experienced, and I am the drik, the experiencer. I am none of them, including this body, mind, sense complex. Then who am I? I am the Atma, the experiencer, consciousness principle, Sakshi Chaitanyam. I am the one who is experiencing this entire thing. It is this Atma Krishna is talking about. And this is the philosophical approach, which is the highest and the subtlest approach. And this philosophical approach is discovering that Arjuna is none other than his Atma Swarupam. Similarly, Bhishma, Drona, etc. are also Atma only. So this philosophical approach is Sarvam Atmamayam Jagat. And Krishna will point out that this Atma, which is Chaitanya Swarupam, of the nature of consciousness, is neither a karta nor a bhokta. Neither a doer, not an experience, not an enjoyer of the actions. Therefore, there is no question of anybody killing or anybody being killed. This is the philosophical argument he will give Arjuna. So, we have also seen this example in Tattva Bodha. It is just like shifting the vision. When we look at a pot as a pot, we talk about the origin of the pot and the destruction of the pot. But once we shift the vision and learn to see the pot as nothing but clay, then from our vision point of view, clay was there before the pot came into existence. Pot had prag abhavaha, but clay did not have prag abhavaha. And clay will be there even after, even when the pot is existing now in the present. It is in the particular shape. The pot is in the particular, the clay is in the particular shape of the pot alone. And when the pot is broken or completely destroyed, nothing is lost because the clay continues to be there. Therefore, from the point of view of pot vision, birth and death are there, from the standpoint of clay vision, there is no birth and death. Even we saw the ocean example. From the standpoint of a wave vision, there is a birth of a wave and there is a death of a wave. But from the standpoint of water vision, there is nothing born, nothing gone. All waves are nothing but water only in a particular form. A bubble is nothing but a water only in a particular form. Bubble may come and go, but the water always remains. If we understand this, all that requires is a shift in the vision from the standpoint from which we are seeing everything in this entire universe. And this is the philosophical approach. Therefore, training the mind to understand that there are no individuals except Atma. Atma alone is there, which is neither born or gone, is the spiritual sadhana. And since there is no birth or death, there is no question of somebody destroying, somebody getting destroyed. Including there is no question of any punyam or any question of any papam. Therefore, Bhagavan says, if you understand this, Arjuna, just to do your duty. This physical body, mind, sense complex has been given to you to do a certain duty. Use it as an instrument and carry out what you have to do. And this is the highest philosophical approach which requires a very subtle, refined and sharp intellect to understand. And this is the discussion from verse 12 to 25. So here Krishna defines Atma as Chaitanyam, the consciousness principle, which is different from the body and which pervades the body. So it is neither a product of the body, nor a part of the body, nor it is a property of the body. This consciousness is a separate entity. Like, recall the example of light, which is neither the product of hand, nor part of hand, nor property of hand. Light is a distinct entity which pervades the hand and makes the hand bright and visible. Similarly, Atma is a consciousness principle which pervades the body and makes the body sentient and alive. Next, Krishna points out that this consciousness is not bound by the limitations of the body, just as the light is not limited by or bound by the limitations of the hand. As light pervades this hand, inside and that is on the hand and outside the hand, as the light is not only it is free from spatial limitations, even if you remove the hand or destroy the hand, the light continues to survive. Similarly, Atma also is, even when the body, mind, sense complex is gone, Atma continues to survive. Atma is there eternally. It is Nityaha. And third example, again, recalling the light example. Even when the hand is removed, light will continue to be there, but that light will not be visible to our eyes. Because to see the light there, we again require another reflecting medium, a manifesting medium. Light is everywhere, but we cannot see the pure light without the help of a reflecting object. Similarly, Atma is always there, but we cannot see the Atma, we cannot see the consciousness principle without a reflecting, without a medium which is able to manifest that consciousness. So Atma as such is avyaktam, but becomes vyaktam, experienceable as life in the body. In a dead body, Atma is not available as a life principle. It is avyaktam. Therefore, Atma is always there as either vyaktam or avyaktam. Therefore, Atma is Nityaha. This is another important idea Bhagavan Krishna gives. The next important idea he gives is that Atma is akarta and abhokta. It does not do any action, nor it enjoys any results of any action. Because for any action to take place, there is a need for space. For example, this hand example I took, when the hand is moving, when I move the hand, the motion is possible for the hand because first it's a limited entity, second there is a space to move. Therefore the hand can move. Whereas the light, which is already pervading this entire room, cannot move. Why? Because there is no space for the light to move. It is already there, present everywhere. Similarly, space pervades everything. Akasha. Space does not move or cannot move because there is no space for the space to move. Similarly, the Atma is pervading everything everywhere, so Atma does not move, and any action requires motion, and any motion requires limitation. Even when we think, the thinking action requires thought motion. So the motion requires a limitation. Because our thoughts are limited, it is able to move to another thought. Atma being limitless, Bhagavan Krishna says, Atma cannot do any action because there is no place to do any action. Therefore, it is akarta. So if Atma is akarta, what is the next consequence? Whatever is akarta is also abhokta. Abhokta means, as I said, free from the results of action. Because karta alone will reap the karma phala, isn't it? The one who does will get the fruits of whatever his action is, whether right or wrong. If that is the case, if suppose the karta is somebody and the bhokta is somebody else, what will happen? I will be eating the food, but somebody else's hunger will be satisfied, isn't it? Shuddh nivritti will take place elsewhere and I will go on doing the action of eating. Therefore, the universal truth is karta eva bhokta bhavati. It is the doer only, he gets the results of his action. And this is a very important law, and that is why our scriptures say, whatever we experience in our life is our own karma phalam. Do not blame anybody else. Only the other people can serve as a medium or nimittam for our experience in the karma phalam. But they are not responsible for it. They are only instruments for our experience in the karma phalam. Therefore, the second point is that Atma is akarta abhokta. This is the second point which Krishna makes in these 13 slokas. And the third point Krishna emphasizes is Atma is nirvikaraha. It is free from all modification, changes. And this, I think, is time now. We will see this in the next class. I will say the prayers. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Harihi Om Shri Guru Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mama.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Guruji.
Namaskaram.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, Guruji.
Guruji,
Yeah.
although Atma,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Now,
Thank you.
in the modern science, like we say, no, punaravi jarnam, punaravi maranam. In the modern science, with the ability to harvest organs, although the body is dead, but vital organs are removed. Eyes are transplanted, liver transplantation, kidneys like that. Therefore, somebody gets fresh lease of life.
Okay. So you want to say how that fit in, right?
Uh,
See, they get a fresh lease of life, but eventually that life also will end,
True. I'm not denying that. All I'm saying is,
we are not saying that, step one and all that, step two like that. Eventually, everything which is anatma, whether it is a body, mind, sense complex or anything in this world, including trees, plants, everything, animals, they are individually also take the eyes or heart, everything. Whether it is existing in one body or in another body or get shifted to another body temporarily, eventually everything will finish. This
of course, that
consciousness principle. That is what we have to.
That's true.
That is what.
Correct.
In fact, science is also now coming very slowly with quantum physics and all. They are trying very hard to understand the reality of this universe.
They
are trying to understand what is it that makes this entire universe function. Some of the scientists have already made a good guess. Of course, some of them have studied also our Shastras. What is contained in the Upanishads, now they are slowly to their experimentation and all coming to that. But one problem with the science is always goes external to find the answers. These answers can be found only when you travel internally.
Correct.
Probably if they use the same methodology, they will never be able to reach what is the true nature of this universe is.
True.
That is what it is. But they have come very close.
Correct. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
Yes, I don't know. There are three hands are there. Vijay Priya first.
Guruji, this is Srikant here.
Yes.
Okay. My question is about this Prague about you're talking about, and then you talked about ending. Pradvamsa Bhava. Yeah, I remember Paramarthanandaji talking about it in Atma Bodha. And my question is, when you talked about this, you said that either one of them being available is good to prove that it is anatma. But one of them leads to the other also, isn't it? If it is born, it has to die. If it is dying, it has to be born at some point in time.
Correct.
That's also true, isn't it?
No, it's true. So that's why I said, somebody may come, because there are philosophies which say that there is no pragabhava because you are already saying that it was there. They believe that the world was created. They don't talk about consciousness and all that. They agree that everything will die, but they say that everything just got created on their own. So what Vedanta does is it addresses even such remote argument somebody may have. And they may come up with some example. We can't think of such example. They may come up with some example that this was existing always, something like that they will say. So in order to cover that, this argument is given. You are right, absolutely. Whatever is existing, presently existing, would have had non-existence before it came into existence, and will have at some point non-existence, posterior non-existence. You are right. Yes, who is the
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that over? Yeah, your question answered?
Yes.
Yeah, Krishnanji.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Yeah, sir, I just need a little more on that akarta and abhokta.
Yeah.
So said that so the it's not a doer nor enjoys the fruits of action.
Right.
But as a karta, we also have to be prepared for the consequences of our action.
Correct.
I'm little not clear about that, sir.
See, when you look at our body, mind, sense complex, and we say that the Atma, the consciousness, resides in us as Jivatma, and we use this body, mind, sense complex as an instrument to transact with the world. Right? Now, question is,
Yes.
we are a combination of two things, Atma and Anatma. Let us say we are a combination of Atma plus this body, mind, sense complex. And when I am transacting with the world, who is the one who is transacting? Is it the body, mind, sense complex who is transacting, or it is the Atma who is transacting? The first question we have to ask. Then the answer is that it is the body, mind, sense complex which is transacting with the world. Because Atma cannot transact with the world at all, as Atma is all pervading, correct? For if you take only the Atma vision, everything is Atma, you cannot have any transactions at all because there is no second entity to have an transaction, correct? For any transaction, you require two entities. Suppose a buying transaction, if I buy, there has got to be a seller, then I will buy. But when there is only one entity, which is Atma, which is all pervading, it cannot get into any action at all. So that is why Atma is akarta. Whereas this body, mind, sense complex can transact with the world. It can do this action of purchase and sell, etc. Any kind of transaction for that matter. So what happens is, whatever can transact with the world, that is not Atma, because Atma cannot transact. So whoever transacts, or whichever entity is transacting, is called a karta, a doer. Right? So here Atma is not the doer. Even though that Atma is present, it is actually facilitating the transaction by lending consciousness to the body, mind, sense complex. The Atma itself is not the doer. The light example, the light bulb example, what is burning?
The filament.
The filament, right? Is the electricity burning?
No.
No. But without the electricity, can the filament burn? It can't. So here, the filament is the karta. I'm just giving an example. I mean, you should not exactly apply everything to Atma, but just an example. In the case of the light bulb, electricity functions like an Atma. It provides sentience for the filament to burn, to throw a light. But when the filament breaks down, even though electricity is present, it cannot do anything. Electricity on its own cannot, it cannot say, I don't need the filament, I will burn myself. It cannot happen. So, like the electricity requires a medium for transaction, Atma requires a medium for transaction. And when we use that medium of mindset to do a transaction, to do an actor, we are called the actors or karta, one who undertakes an action. Is this clear? First point.
Yes, clear.
Now, whoever is doing the action has got to be the enjoyer of the results of that action also, isn't it? Logically. If I do an action, you cannot
Yes.
be the enjoyer of that. And that is the whole law of karma. Whoever does anything has to either has to experience the consequences and results of that action. So again, since Atma is Akarta, it is Abhokta also. It cannot experience the results of any action because there's no action can be done by Atma. So all actions, all kartritvam and bhoktritvam are centered on this body, mind, sense, complex. And that is driven by what we call the ego. That is why we take ourselves, I am the doer, I am the employer, and all. Whereas when we say I am the doer, body, mind, sense, complex point of view may be a correct statement, but consciousness, it is a false statement because I am not the doer. This is the shift in our attitude, in our understanding, in our focus, which the spiritual journey brings in us. What is philosophical angle? This is the spirituality, the shift in the focus.
The differentiation has come out clearly. I have understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
Anjali ji, next.
Yeah, Namaskara, Guruji. I wanted to know there is we say that consciousness is present in animals and plants also. So how do we differentiate the consciousness present in them and the human being?
You don't need to differentiate.
It is the same consciousness.
See, the point is, are animals sentient? Are they able to eat? Are they able to
Yeah.
live?
Yeah.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
What makes them do that?
Consciousness.
See, consciousness is not something to be experienced. Consciousness is because it's like electricity only, nothing to be experienced. But when we see all the gadgets working, we know that there is electricity behind them. There is no difference. There is a difference only from the point of view of our body, mind. The instrument difference is there.
Reflecting medium. Okay. Reflecting medium is different.
Reflecting medium is different. The consciousness, which is the original, light or original Chaitanya, is the same in everything. Even in the piece of rock you take, right? Rock also,
yeah,
pervades that rock.
Yeah.
But the rock is not sentient because it does not have the power to reflect that consciousness. So it remains in one place. So consciousness, when it pervades this entire universe, there is nothing that is left out, rather, completely pervading the whole universe. So whatever differences that we perceive, we are perceiving at the anatma level, at the nama rupa level. That's all we have to understand. And that is the reason why we actually, in our culture, we have a high respect for everything in this universe. We worship planets, we worship animals, we worship plants, we even worship a deadly serpent which can bite us and kill us, kill our body, minds, and complex. Because in essence, everything is Atma only. So since I as Atma is worshipable, I worship everything in this universe. That is the way we have to understand our culture. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, Guruji. I have second question. We have defined Atma today. Now, with respect to that, what is Jivatma and Paramatma?
Yeah. That's all will go. Jivatma is nothing but the consciousness which is reflected consciousness. Because the original consciousness is all pervading. It gets reflected in our body, mind, sense complex as the Jivatma. Actually speaking, at the highest level of understanding, at the highest level of spirituality, Jivatma is a myth. It's a mithya. There is nothing called Jivatma.
Acha.
But if we are told this right in the beginning, we will not understand. So what Upanishad say, they go on and on. And when you receive more or get more and more mature knowledge, we will understand that there is only Parama, there is no Jivatma, no Paramatma. There is only Atma. Everything else is an appearance in this world. Even Jivatma is an appearance. But how to make it understand? These things, if you explain to people, nobody will understand anything. So Upanishads struggle with various examples, various methods to come to that, to take you to that level where you understand everything. Sarvam Atmamayam Jagat. That's what it is. There is nothing other than Atma. Everything is mithya, illusory, appears to be there, but in fact, reality is not there, including Jiva. This is the highest level of learning. But for the present, you can understand Jivatma is nothing but an Atma which reflects the original consciousness. Or if you want to have two nomenclatures, the original conscious you can call it Paramatma, and Jivatma you can call it reflected consciousness. So when the original consciousness gets reflected, so what happens is, if you suppose say that I am a Jivatma, I am one consciousness, you are a Jivatma, you are another consciousness, somebody else is a Jivatma, is third consciousness. That means what? There are so many Atmas are there. Question is arise, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Understanding that there are so many Atmas, as many beings are Namarupas are there, so many Atmas are there. But that is not what the Upanishad say. There is only one Atma.
One Atma.
How will you, if there is one Atma, why I am experiencing so many? Question will arise, isn't it?
But
So,
we say super consciousness, we say. So that is.
yeah, so when we reach that stage of understanding what we call Swami Paramatmananda ji calls a super waker state. Right? There is a dream state, there is a waker state. When you become super wakers, jnanis, people actually got that knowledge, which is actually a secret knowledge. Bhagavan himself will say, all that Arjuna I am telling you are all guhyatamam, the topmost secret. It cannot, why secret? Because even if you tell, nobody will understand. It is just like in our young age, our parents used to talk in a language in Tamil only, in our mother tongue, but they will interpose the words. So they only will understand what they are talking. As children, we won't understand. So it's not a secret, but it is like a secret for us, for children, so that we don't understand what they are talking, but they will understand what they are talking. So like that,
very good.
it's also super maker state, we will understand all.
Yeah, principle Advaita has come out very clearly. Aham Brahmasmi.
Aham Brahmasmi. Everything is Brahma.
Yes.
Atmam
I
Brahma.
think that is, Aham Brahma, that thing has come out very clearly, Guruji, from this. Although it's very difficult to.
It is to be practiced.
Practiced,
I am
yes.
telling, or Swami Paramatmananda is telling, or Dayanand Saraswati did not believe it. We have to work on it. If we really believe and if we want. And what is the whole purpose? Pandita na anushochanti. If we want to get rid of our grief, our sorrow, all troubles in our life, this is the only formula. There is no other formula. So if you are serious about it, we should pursue this change of attitude. It's very difficult to change. That is given. I mean, if nobody is claiming that you read Upanishads once, you will change and all that. It's never the case. You have to do it again and again and again and again for any change. But people have achieved. Lot of Mahatmas have achieved that change. So it is doable. From a point of view of our human intellect, it is nothing not doable. Provided we go about it in the right way with the guidance of a guru, with the help of all Shastra, all that, it is achievable. If you want that as your life's goal, the scriptures say, go ahead, travel in this path. Anjali ji, have
Yeah, Guruji. Yeah,
Thank you.
Guruji. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No more? Then fine. Yes.
Namaste, Guruji. I had raised my hand. Thank you very much for.
Just only I saw your hand.
It is. I had raised my hand, but because my question was answered while you're discussing with others, so I can just leave it at that. My question was going to be Atma and Anatma are separate. Am I audible, Guruji?
Yeah, I'm audible. Yeah.
Okay. Namaskaram once again. Atma and Anatma are separate. Atma pervades Anatma. But the origin of Anatma or the source of Anatma is Atma only, isn't it, Guruji?
I wouldn't, yes, say it because Anatma is look at Atma from the beginning of creation perspective. There was this consciousness principle which was always there. It is eternal, right?
Yes.
Then this Maya principle comes in. This Maya
Yes,
principle is
you
also
explained that
eternal, right?
Yeah, you explained that very well. That Maya depends on the consciousness for its existence.
Yes.
And it appears to be separate, but it's not separate.
It's not separate. Exactly. Maya requires, Atma requires Anatma. Without Anatma, Atma cannot be experienced.
Yes.
But the beauty is, the Anatma is the one which is the creation. The whole creation is Anatma only. Being blessed by the Atma, the whole creation becomes sentient. So even though they are inseparable, consciousness does not require Anatma to exist, whereas Anatma requires consciousness to exist. Because consciousness, eventually, we will define it as what? Sat and Chit. Existence principle, consciousness principle, and Ananta. Ananda means Ananta, limitless principle. So we will eventually describe or define what we call Brahman in Upanishadic language. I didn't, because there are many people who may not be exposed to all this, not students of Tattva Bodha. So I am little bit reserved in using certain terminologies. But just for the sake, if you understand Brahman, which is Sachidananda Swarupa, which is existence principle, consciousness principle, and limitless principle, that Brahman, the entire Maya appears to exist, everything appears to exist because that existence principle, like the consciousness principle, is also pervading everything that is there in the universe. That is why we say everything is existing. We say I am, it is, they are. That is, are, am are all what? Existence principle. But that is the later stage. I mean, we are now only focusing on consciousness, sentiency part of it.
Yes.
So the answer is that they are not separate, but they are separate also. What we experience is Maya, and through Maya, we have to understand that we are also experiencing consciousness. That should be the understanding of this.
Yes, Guruji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Yes, anybody else? No more questions. Everything is clear. We'll continue in the next class. Yes, Acharya, you only raised it. Just now is coming.
My question was asked by Lataji, so it is answered.
Okay, good.
It was identical question. So
okay.
See, my question was slightly different. I said, so when two individuals transact, two human beings transact, It is basically one anatma transacting with another anatma, because we say atma is all pervading and it is common for everybody. So it is not basically saying that people use atma in a very loose term. My atma, my consciousness doesn't permit. It is actually the anatma speaking and not the atma, which is common for everybody.
When they
So
say
that-
my consciousness, actually they are not referring to it. My ego is not permitting.
Yes.
What we mean. We must understand that way. Atma cannot transact at all. It's everywhere. Isn't it? So anyhow,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Namaskar.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.